before we start, we're having technical difficulties with the broadcast tonight. The sound level is uneven, garbled. So we'll do the best we can, but it's not going to be as usual.
Okay. So we're ready to go?
We are.
So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oops. And for all those folks who are out there viewing this right now, you may have heard Gordon made, but apparently the sound system is having issues. So if we're sounding really goofed up, that is a technical difficulty that we're stuck with at this time. So you may have heard that, may not have. Roll call.
Councilmember Caldwell Wagner. Here. Groves. Here. Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Patrick.
Excused.
Randall.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Mayor Cramblett.
Here. Additions or amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Your Honor, we are going to pull 5D, approved memorandum of agreement between the Port and Museum. The port has not approved that yet. And then we have some presentations. Hood River Garbage Rate Review. Mr. Winterbottom is here with us. And the people from the Tri-County Household Hazardous Waste are on their way here. So if we could, after the consent agenda, take Mr. Winterbottom's proposal, then perhaps the other group will be here by then.
Very good. That's where we'll go then. Okay, adoption of the consent agenda, which is the approval of October 14, 2019 minutes. Our resolution number 1422, deferred compensation plan, and ratification of the bills, the amount of $650,276.37.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. You're up. We're gonna move way down your pile of paperwork. Move way down in there.
7B.
So, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm Jim Winterbottom with Hood River Garbage. I'm here tonight to present our proposed rates. Per month for once a week service. The 2.15% increase would add $2.35 a month or 54 cents per pickup. And in addition to the landfill increase, the other things that we use to calculate the impact are just the overall operating costs, fuel, containers, medical, maintenance and repair on our vehicles. And if there are any questions, I would certainly be glad to do my best for them.
Any questions?
Our numbers don't match up here with yours. You said a weekly curbside was how much? 17 what?
$17.98.
Here's got 1694.
Yeah.
Says the current rate $16.94 for us, yeah.
Well,
It's going to $17.30.
I apologize for that. I thought I had sent the updated rates to Kathy. Well, I seem to have a hiccup in my presentation tonight, folks. I apologize for that.
Which way
So
that
do you know
hiccup
where it's
go?
at?
I don't, I would have to, and then let's turn the page and see where we're at on the commercial. It must be off too. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'll have to double check that and get back to Mr. Zimmerman with the correct rates. Like I said, I apologize for that. That
Oh, we
was
like
spot on. Yeah. Yeah. But the impact would be very similar, based on whatever the rate is now, and I will get that to you folks in the corrected form.
So since we're not approving this tonight, you're simply directing us to come back with a resolution that would increase the rates. You can still direct the staff to bring back the resolution, to bring it back with the correct rates that Jim will forward to us, if that's your desire.
Or we can just wait until after those are provided.
Well, normally the process, it's a two-step process. He has to come and present the rates to you, and then we have to write a resolution that puts the rates in. Now, I could write the resolution in anticipation of approval, but if you don't approve it, there's no need to do the resolution. So whatever way you want me to do it, we can bring the resolution to you with the corrected rates for your vote, yea or nay, at the December 9th meeting.
I just feel like the best thing to do would be to wait until all the information's correct and we can do it.
Okay.
Which, what won't change though is, what you see here on the rate's gonna change. What won't change is percent of,
Correct.
the percent of what they're going up is, so you could okay to go up that percentage, that's not gonna change. He's just off on the numbers here.
In any case, we gotta have a resolution to implement it, so we can bring it back on the 9th.
Okay, so you can do that then? All right, good, you good with that then? So you wanna wait for resolution and good
I would prefer
information?
that we wait until
Okay.
all,
Everybody, we're all good with that then?
So everybody
Okay.
knows, yes.
All right. Bruce, is there anything you wanna bring up on this?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, yeah,
All right,
so we're good with that?
I'll get those to you
All
then.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is Tri-County here?
No,
They're not here yet? Well,
Aye.
I'm gonna move into action now, or,
okay. Check the doors. They just know where they were coming.
okay.
They're here.
All right,
Thought I just thought they were- Please, we're just right on time.
yep, right here, we're ready to go.
So we have Tyler
Welcome.
Stone, who is the city, or county manager for Wasco County, and Steve Grant, who's the commission chair for Wasco County here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Council members.
We're ready.
You're ready.
Floor is yours. Okay, well, in your packet, you have a concept that we developed with our hauler. And we visited early I personally visited with 7 members of the steering committee, and I being an 8th member, and the 9th member, I had to meet with the mayor of the jurisdiction. So we floated this concept ahead of time before we took it to the steering committee to see if it was a feasible project to move forward. I'll cut down a little, after a lengthy discussion at the steering committee meeting with the members decided unanimously to move this back to all the jurisdictions for further thought. And we're here to answer any questions that might have come up out of the packet information that you have, and ask you if this is a viable concept for us to dig deeper in, get more information, and help to get us back on track with our recycling woes.
So if I could provide some background, since I can't find my staff report. Tri-County Hazardous Waste, the city joined a long time ago to take care of the household hazardous waste, the paints, the bills. Now we've expanded it to electronics. That waste that you just can't throw in the garbage can or flush down the toilet. And that's the focus of the Tri-County Hazardous Waste Program. We've had a little mission creep. We've started doing some recycling, and in an effort to keep the material out of the landfill. And the Chinese, a year ago, quit accepting the plastics in the landfill. And so now we're taking everything that the plastics 3 through 7 now is going to the landfill. So we're increasing our use of the landfill, shortening their life. That's one side. But we also have cardboard. Cardboard, when you carry loose trucks from Hood River, and Jim helped me out here with this. If we had a baling facility that could handle the volume of cardboard, which is what this concept is, we could take 3 times as much cardboard per trip to the recycling center in Portland and cut down that material going into the landfill. So there's an economic advantage to doing it, but it's outside the scope of the Tri-County Hazardous Waste. It is recycling. So the concept that Mr. Kramer and Mr. Stone are bringing to you is, let's see how we can make this work for the 9 jurisdictions that are here. You have in your packet, Pat Bozanich, who is on the advisory committee, has her comments. Bruce Lumper, who is a non-voting member of the committee, has their comments at your desk too. Their major concern is, and this is part of the concept that has to be explored, is what do we do with the household hazardous waste? Is this all or nothing, or is this both, or is the household hazardous waste set off on something else and some kind of other kind of governance model to keep it going, or would Hood River Garbage, the Waste Connections, continue the household hazardous waste? Those are questions that we don't know the answer to at this point. This is just an effort to say, this makes sense from the landfill standpoint. Should we continue to pursue it? And we have to have unanimous, because there's 9 governments that are involved in this, or do we not pursue it? So that's the question before the council tonight. Does it sound reasonable? Should we go forward? If it doesn't sound reasonable, what do we do?
And I'll just add to that to give you a little bit on the concept piece of it. So it's probably been 3 months now, and we've had a lot of pressure because all of our recyclables are going to the landfill currently, as is our City of the Dalles. And so we've been getting quite a bit of pressure to resolve that issue, and rightfully so. And the model that's out there is the model that Cascade Locks, County of Hood River, City of Hood River, did I miss anybody? Those three have added an additional percentage to their bill to pay for recycling. Because currently when we put this stuff in the truck and we take it to Portland, they charge us $115 a ton.
The co-mingled material, yeah.
And so when we came back and asked, what's it going to cost us to start recycling? we think the numbers are gonna come back between 6 and 8% increase in the fee that our citizens pay. And for me, as the county administrator, wasn't necessarily okay with just dropping another fee on top of our citizens. And so I asked the question, what other alternatives are there? And the cost is the cost is the cost. And so I started looking at, okay, we're doing household hazardous waste and some recycling. Why can't we look at those programs and bring those programs together and see if there's a model there that really takes a look at the efficiencies of Waste Connections in this case, and being able to do both of those programs together. And so I set out to really try to build a model that did a couple of things. One, no net loss in the household hazardous waste program. That's an important program to us and everybody else. So I didn't want to see any loss to that. Same number of hazardous waste events, same type of marketing and education that goes out there, and not impact the actual services. Secondarily, how can we reduce costs of the program? And as Gordon was just saying, we take a truck of commingled material that can hold 12 tons unbaled, and if we can bale it, we can haul 30 tons in that same truck. So we take 2 out of every 3 trucks off the road, and the labor associated with driving those trucks and the fuel that you put in those trucks. So there's a cost savings there that we realize. And keeping in mind, every one of these cost savings that we end up achieving cuts away at that $115 a ton that we're paying. The last component of it is, okay, how do we build a baling center? And Steve asked me this question probably a year ago, if we had any land available that we could build a baling center. And at the time, the answer was no. And so we approached Waste Connections and said, is there a way that we can build a regional baling center so that we can compact all of this material, get it to Portland, and get much better pricing? And so Waste Connections started investigating, and they've been able to, at least in concept, secure the facility, the land that is adjacent to the current transfer station in Dallas. Here's where the challenging part starts. In order to do that, Waste Connections would have to commit to a 20-year term on that ground for lease agreement. And then we, as a recycling group, would need to invest in the equipment, the baler, the materials handling, the forklift, that kind of stuff, and a building to put it in. We can't afford to do that off of increased premiums. If we're talking about an 8% increase or 6% increase just to start recycling, that's recycling in the manner that we're currently recycling. So non-baled material, 3 trucks a week or whatever it is with 12 tons on it. So we needed a partner to be able to address that part of it, the baler, the equipment, the building, and the long-term lease. And so we started having a conversation with Waste Connections about what does that look like, and is it even feasible? And you'll see there's probably criticism in your packets from Mr. Lumper that we didn't bring this to the steering committee. And initially that is true. We did not bring it to the steering committee because we had one of our public employees' jobs on the line there. And so before we brought this out in a public setting, we needed to see if it was even a concept worth looking at. Once we had several meetings with Waste Connections and they said, yes, this is something that we think we can make work, then we brought it to the steering committee. And as Steve said, Gordon said, out of that is the steering committee directed us to talk to each of the jurisdictions to see if even moving forward with exploring concept, I mean, building the business model for this concept was something that we would want to consider. And what that does, it combines those programs, and I see it combining those programs in a couple of ways. One, we would want the long-term governance of this program to be in our franchise agreements. And so that's the agreement that regulates Waste Connections and that we agree to operate by. And the way that this concept is currently looking is we would keep the steering committee in place. We would spin down the Wasco County Department of Household Hazardous Waste and Recycling, and we would shift all of that to Waste Connections. Waste Connections would pick up all of the hazardous waste events, all of the education, and on top of that, pick up the recycling. We think, at least on the first blush of those numbers, that if we were to do that, between the dollars we have in reserves in the Household Hazardous Waste Program and the dollars that Waste Connections would put in to this program to help us build the facility and put all the equipment in there, i.e. a public-private partnership between the jurisdictions and Waste Connections, that we can build this facility. And not only build this facility, I'm hoping that you guys will be able to roll back the charges that you've already approved for your citizens. And the same model for us, we haven't approved that charge yet, so my ask was, how do you do it without having an additional charge to our citizens? And so what we're asking for tonight is your blessing to continue to build out the business model for this. And I don't, of course, we didn't want to do that if we had just flat objections to looking at this concept. But my feeling is it's a pretty solid concept. We would have some work to do. And, we have a willing partner. Governance would still stay with the franchise agreements and the steering committee. The other kind of go, no-go point for us when we talked about this with Waste Connections is that because these are public dollars, that they would have to account for these dollars separately from their bottom, so that we can see the dollars that are going into the program and the dollars that are being spent on the program. And you guys agreed to do that. So that's the concept that we're wanting to explore, and we're asking for all of the different jurisdictions' blessing to continue to move that forward. Obviously, once we have built that business model, that will come back to the steering committee. In addition to, I would assume, at least one other option, which is going to be just a straight rate increase for our citizens. And then they can choose to move that forward or not. So.
Linda?
So we pay a recycling charge now, right?
Yeah, I came back in the spring of this year and proposed a 2.61% increase to get all of Hood River County, Cascade Locks, and the City of Hood River's material back to processors, which we have been doing and continue to do. I then
pay for it? 2.6.
No, but we're getting it back there because at the time that's what we presented. And then having responsibility for the Dallas disposal, Wasco County came to us and said, would you be considered would you consider this type of a program? So we don't have to do a rate increase to our ratepayers, constituents. And I said, sure, we'll listen to, what you have. And we kind of did the legwork on our current landlord that we rent from. Use a parcel behind us for storage of drop boxes and dumpsters. And we talked to him about a 20 to a 30-year long-term lease. It's a concept that, we've done it in other places, but each one's a little bit different, and we just need to find out what lane we're gonna be traveling in to, move forward with this, if that's the desire of the 9 jurisdictions.
So you're combining then? Are you not? Do you work together now?
No, I work for the county.
Okay, so this, so I guess.
We do, yes. Waste Connections is our hauler in Wasco County. He picks up your curbside, he picks up our curbside. So we do have a working relationship, but through a franchise agreement, as you do.
I was under the assumption that when we recycle, you did all that. You baled all that cardboard and that paper and everything that
It gets hauled in loose loads in transport trailers. We have no way to bail it.
Oh, well, I just assumed that
Right.
recycle means baling it.
Yeah.
Putting it all
We-
in a little
we wish.
package.
We wish.
That's what this proposal is.
Yeah.
That's what we're asking to move forward with the concept. We have a concept and we want to get a baler, we want to put a facility together, and we want to make our program, which is doing good things now, better.
So let me ask then too, because part of this, I looked at the 2 letters here of the committee members, just briefly, so I don't really have a good feel on what my general thing on it. It seemed like they're complaining about contamination, complain about private as opposed to public. So right now there is a public entity and a private entity in handling all of our waste, hazardous and all that. Private's handling our waste, correct?
Mhm.
Hazardous is being handled publicly.
Actually, the hazardous is being handled privately, but administered publicly. So
Yeah.
Wasco County employs one staff member, and all of the funds from all of the jurisdictions flow into that program. And then that staff member coordinates the education materials, the hazardous waste events, and other things. And Wasco County, as an entity, we supervise that. We're the lead agency.
They're the fiscal agent for the monies that are collected at the landfill for them to run this program.
And so, with that, we, the steering committee, is the governmental entity who contracts with a private company to come and do our hazardous waste materials, our projects.
So then what is the
And we
issue?
are not that private company.
And they're
And
not,
they're not that
and they're not the group, right?
So their concern seems to be, is it waste management? You're not waste management.
No.
Waste Connections.
Waste Connections is not affiliated with Waste Management. So it sounds like maybe they're concerned about Waste Management coming in and being,
No, for the record, Ms. Mayor, the 2 folks that chimed in on this, would like to see us not use Waste Connections, our hauler. They think that we have another option of some sort to do, and so they're in opposition of us moving forward with even a concept to see if we can make this work. That's all we're asking for. We're not trying to develop a plan or a program tonight to put out to everybody. We want to take a deeper dive into this to see if we can make it work for all 9 of us.
well, I would just say with all my time here, that Waste Connections has treated us very well. They've been a good partner in managing our garbage, taking care of our garbage, and doing a variety of things for the community. So I appreciate everything,
We like that part.
everything. And when I go up there to your facility, I'm treated very well. And everybody, they try to move through, they don't hassle you, they work with you, and so I appreciate that. So I like the idea that Waste Connections is personally, I've been around and working with them, I think they've done a good job. And it appears that part of this thing is, that's what it is, they're still in this, and the county still, you're talking about, this thing is, you want it to become a partnership between the two to make sure. So what is the issue with, because I seen, at least one of them had issues, I don't know if both of them had issues with contaminants. What is the issue they see with contaminants?
So the contaminant side of the screen is the 3 through 7s, which you took out. Okay, so the other 6 jurisdictions that are the partner of all 9 of us, we have not followed your lead. Okay, so you changed your list, correct? Of what you recycle. Okay, so the rest of us are going to follow that suit. So that now we're all doing the same thing.
Which is those numbers are going to landfills.
Right, so the contaminants, 3 through 7, and the plastic bags and straws, which come January 1, will be no longer in the state of Oregon. Plastic bags are the number 1 source of contamination in our co-min stream. So, we've got that knocked out coming January, so, but the 3 through 7s are still an issue. And then, the 1 through 2s are an issue. Now we have to go to the education table to teach us how to properly rinse and set out for recycle. So, it's a big dive, there's gonna be a lot of work in order for us to get this concept to where it makes a business sense for us to do this. And if it doesn't make business sense, then as the chair of the Tri-County program, I would probably recommend that we stop working on this and go to a different angle and try something different. But we feel that this is worth our time and effort to explore.
So then we're talking two different costs. Is that not right?
Under this concept, we utilize the existing rate structure that's reflecting the household hazardous waste from recycling program. That dollar, that will do all of the above. It'll do the hazardous waste piece, and it will do the recycling piece.
So to answer your question, you have an opportunity to roll back your 2.61% if you so chose to later on down the road, after we found that this was feasible.
Because their citizens are already paying.
They're paying the 2.61, Cascade Locks, Hood River, and Hood River County.
That's what I mean.
Right.
So
So yes, you are. You're paying a surcharge, and you're also paying extended surcharge for recycling. You're paying
So when
for the
this-
hazardous waste and education, and you're paying for recycling. So yes, you are paying twice.
So when you develop this and you put in your baling and whatever you do, you said it would go up 8%, 6 to 8%?
If we don't do that, and we want to recycle, the estimates that Waste Connection has given us for a fee increase, like the 2.6% just approved, will be 6 to 8%.
For the Wasco County.
Oh, well, that's what
That's based on
that's what I,
square miles that are covered, they want some depots placed out near Moffett in the High Valley Womack area. There were other things to enhance that program that you folks already had in place. That just, the 2.61 got material out of the land, and it still is getting to the recyclers.
okay, I just wanna make sure that we're not getting, that we're taking on another cost. And I, by all means, I mean, I'm a recycler, I want this done, but
You'd actually.
I don't wanna add to,
You'd actually-
I don't wanna add to the citizens now, to cost of the citizens now,
You'd actually
to
be-
deal your program,
you'd actually be-
deal your, and yours also, and yours.
You'd actually be able to reduce the cost.
Right.
Okay, so that sounds a little, so that little confused, little bit where you are and where we are, where you are and where we are.
Right, and we're behind. And we want to catch up. We want to change our list. We want the whole region, all 9 entities doing the same thing. So that we can all work together, and have one fee for our citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Other questions?
Dumb this down for me. We have, recyclables that are going, or no, we have plastics that have to go to the landfill. And they're contaminated. So those right now are in loose trucks, shipped to.
So when we started our new program here in July, the processors did some test loads for us, and made us aware that they do not want the 3 through 7 in the commingle. So our new program in Hood River County, starting July 1st, is no 3 through 7s, and no aseptics or gable top boxes, which we've been standing at the transfer station, talking to people that come in, softball, we've been leaving oops tags, curbside, letting people know that that's not a program material. So those have been mitigated for the most part, they go away, people are throwing those away at their house. We continue to take the load as it's presented to us, to the processors. And at this time, they are still saying it's good quality material, there's not a lot of contaminants in it. So the 3 through 7s is the choice people are making in the grocery store or the sandwich shop to get their box to go. Then it's up to them to throw it away because there's no processor that wants that item currently.
So that's part of it. The other part is, in reading the concerns of the two people on the steering committee, with the legality of it. Can you address that?
Sure. So it's been thrown out there, it's been several meetings that Mr. Lumper doesn't, and Mr. Lumper's not an attorney, and we actually haven't built the governance structure yet. So, that whole piece of it will have to go through legal review and how it's structured. I would say, there are lots of models out in the world where public-private partnerships exist and can be modeled for a program like this. There's also many franchise agreements out there that can be modeled to be able to address the services that we're looking for. And really, there's probably a third level in our public contracting ability to be able to contract with somebody to provide these services. So there are several legal models out there, and if you just look at the household hazardous waste program over the years, we helped private entity dirt huggers, right? We built how many buildings? 2? Have we put dollars in?
Yeah, we've got the 2 hazardous materials site buildings at Waste Connections in the Dalles and in Hood River.
Yeah. We've bought can trailers for
Animal shelter.
For the animal shelter out of those funds, and there's probably some other ones that I'm not remembering. So, yeah, there is a legal lift on how we structure that, but it's, for example, it's already in our franchise agreement that Waste Connections will recycle. So, that'll be something you'll have to work on.
I would say Wasco County can work on it, but.
Right.
So is what's driving part of this is the issue with China? And is it, or is it the amount of, the ability, the problem of having to haul light loads?
It's all of the above. I mean, really, it's all of the above. So,
Yeah. Bruce, is there anything you want to say?
just that, I appreciate, what they're doing, and if you're gonna try to continue to recycle, there has to be some changes made. And, I'm interested in seeing what the deeper dive looks like.
Anyone else? So is there any, so what do we need from this?
Just encouragement.
Encouragement. So where are we? Are we encouraging them?
Thumbs up, thumbs
I'm
down.
not.
Huh?
I'm not. There's just too many, for me, there's too many unanswered questions.
Well, that's what we're asking them to do, is go back and answer those questions and come back with, when you have the governance model, when you have the fiscal model, when you have all of the I's dotted, T's crossed, or T's dotted and I's crossed, then come back and say, do we want to participate?
So the encouragement is to allow them to say, hey, keep moving ahead with this. Because the other part of it is, you know, if you're on the no side on it, you're saying, forget this
Councilor
whole
Walker,
thing,
yeah.
forget this whole thing and just start dumping it all. I mean, that's, so either we're involved in some recycling or we're gonna pull out of something.
And who pays for this study? When we tell you, yes, go forward and do good things, who pays for that?
So it's not a study, If you're supportive and the other jurisdictions are supportive, then we will start working with Waste Connections to do a deeper dive into what that model looks like. So there shouldn't be any cost, or at least, yeah,
Right.
our staff time, we may have a little bit of legal, in looking at the governance, in looking at structure. Really, there's no cost. There's no cost to Cascade.
There will be, no cost to Cascade. There will be, no cost to Cascade.
So, yeah, so.
You were at Hood.
Yeah, and Councilor Walker, it is, we know that there's lots of questions out there. And once we get an answer to this question, we'll probably come up with 2 or 3 more questions that we're gonna have to answer. So we know, we understand going into this, that there are a lot of questions. And Mr. Lumper and Ms. Bozanich will be part of that conversation. I'm meeting with Mr. Lumper tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock. So we know that we've got lots of work, lots of questions before we can come with a final product for that solution to get this stuff out of the landfill that we all want to happen. So, that's where we're at with all of this.
Go ahead.
Well, earlier
Go
on,
ahead.
you mentioned that this wasn't brought to the steering committee because of the loss of one public employee. I'm not, I've been in a public employee for 28 years, and that was never an issue. I mean, it was basically, here's the program, we're gonna lose that FTE, but that's the way it is.
This is how we got around to that decision making process. Put yourself in the shoes of being that publican. And if I were to come and say, I want to look at completely blowing up the program that you work for and look at a different model. And we're going to start researching that. We're going to spend the next 3 months looking at that. And then 3 months down the road, I come back to you and say, sorry, didn't work. Or it didn't pencil out, or the model isn't something we're gonna move forward. You just had 3 months worth of anxiety and stress about potential loss of your job, your family's income. And so we chose not to do that in this particular case until we had some initial conversations with Waste Connections to see if this was even something that one, they would consider, and two, then in looking at what we think are the estimates, to be able to do something like this, do we have the dollars and the ability to be able to do that? Once we answered those two questions, and they were affirmative, Then we brought it to the steering committee and said, hey, we've been looking at another option. At that point, that's when we notified the employee that this is actually viable. And so, right or wrong, I mean, I get criticized from Bruce for taking that aspect. I could have opened it up on day one, and that employee would have had to deal with whatever the outcome was. The outcome was gonna be, it doesn't work for Waste Connections, or it doesn't work financially. So sorry, you don't need to be, sorry you spent the last 3 months looking for a job. Right? So we chose to look at a very high level of a concept without the involvement of the steering committee, because that employee staffs the steering committee. In order to be able to not 3 months down the line, have to tell that employee, so sorry, we didn't mean to stress you out for the last 3 months about jobs. So that's the reasoning behind that, and it's as simple as that. Had we not had an employee involved in that discussion, we wouldn't be where we are today, honestly. It would have gone to the steering committee on day one. The steering committee would have been working it, and we would have had a different outcome.
The branch of government that you work for must be a lot nicer than the one I work for. Because that happens every day. Because it's all about cost. And if you go to work and a program ends, or something changes it,
I think we approach things a little bit differently than a lot of other governments.
We do appreciate our employees. We have built a culture, and we do. So that's why we took David's best interest to heart in the early beginnings. He had a conversation with him, and so we haven't been hiding anything from anybody. We're putting it out front, but I don't want to spend a lot of my time and or my staff's time if our partners don't want us to move forward. So that's why we're here now. The steering committee voted and referred it back to you all, and so that's where we're at.
So where are we at? So as far as the council goes, or as a council, are we prepared to allow them to move ahead with this, or suggest they go ahead and move on, or we wanna?
I'm interested to see how they're gonna deal with the contamination problem. That's up front at the beginning of your conception needs to be looked at. Whether that means public education, sending people letters, or bringing somebody in the community to meet with people, or whatever it takes, but I know that's a big deal for you. And that's gonna be right at the top of your list.
So are you okay with it moving ahead?
Yes, I am.
Where are you at, Bob?
if it's merely a continuation of looking at the problem, I'm for it. But if there is any cost involved, or if my questions about the legality and several other things are answered, I'd be happy to take another look.
Where are you at, Jules?
The same.
So go ahead, move it. Bruce, where are you at on it? Move it ahead?
Well, I like to recycle, and if we don't change the way we do it, it's gonna end. So I'm in favor of, I would like to see more. I mean, I like the concept, but I wanna see more before I make any major decisions. But I would encourage him to pursue this route a little further.
So my question would be then too, it sounds like we've got enough here to move ahead, but my question is, you've got two members here. Do you believe that these two members, as you move ahead and gain more information, that you can bring them on board, or do you think they're opposed to it no matter what?
Well, to honestly answer that question, Mr. Lumper is a non-voting member. Mr. Lumper was was instituted in this program for his institutional knowledge.
He came
His
out-
background he came from DEQ. He was instrumental in some of the original recycling depots that we have in the county. One being my hometown in Dufur, we did that back in 1987, and he was very helpful. And so Bruce has been around since the conception of this program. And the steering committee felt that his information and knowledge was of such that he needed to be at the table, but he does not have a vote. Ms. Bazanich has a vote. She represents the city of Mosier. She emailed me this morning and saying that because we were unable to make the meeting the other night, they pulled that from the docket so that we'd have an opportunity to all be there and all express our concerns. Pat and I had an hour and a half conversation last week, and we got down to her concerns, got to mine, and we left that meeting moving forward in a positive direction. So I think that the two folks here, valuable members of our committee, they just have a different view on how to get to point A. And so we will intertwine as we go down that road to get to getting this stuff out of the landfill.
That's it, but they obviously are people who want
They're very
recycling to happen.
They're very passionate as well, yes.
I don't believe you'll change Mr. Lumber's opinion. I've had some one-on-one conversations with him. There's a lot of ownership there. And we accept the fact to disagree. I think I asked him when we presented this. So if I can reduce costs, provide the same service, and add recycling, would you still be against this? And the answer was yes, I would be against this.
Ouch. Well, anyway,
Okay.
you got the council behind you to,
All right, thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
And now to let you know, there are 6 other jurisdictions before you said yes, so you're number 7. I have 2 to go. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
you're
Steve.
welcome.
Thank you.
And then, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Obviously
real
not
quick.
an easy thing.
No. So I did look through my emails and to address Councilor Walker's concern. I sent the original rate sheets to staff on October 28th. On October 31st, I saw that there was an error. So you do have incorrect rate sheets because it looks like the October 31st rate sheets that I sent didn't get into your packets. So I reported that thread.
Halloween.
I know. So I reported that thread to you, so you have it now.
Oh, thanks.
All right, so sorry about that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Okay, so who knows up there? Now we're gonna move back to action items. Appointment committees.
We've had one resignation from the Tourism Committee. Steve Anderson submitted his resignation verbally on Thursday, last Thursday. We have an application that we've had for a while. He's been attending the meetings and been very encouraging on the Tourism Committee. We'd like to recommend that Cameron LaFleur be placed on the Tourism Committee to take Steve Anderson's place.
Yeah, look at it. We don't have anybody else going down in there, so, and somebody wants to serve. Oh, we're good with that?
Yep.
See any issue? Okay, yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, DEQ, penalty demand notice.
The staff report kind of tells it all. We're gonna fine us $4,000, and after a hearing with their administrator, they've agreed to take it down to $2,000. You have an option to either pay the $2,000 now, pay the $2,000 time with interest, or put it into a separate program that's been approved by DEQ for environmental effectiveness, some recycling or something there. I don't think we'd be able to put it into this one, which means we'd have $2,000 plus staff time to administer and track whatever that approved program is. There's a fourth one. or appeal the fine to administrative law judge, where we could win, or lose, or end up paying more money with staff time and taking Ruben up there to fight the staff. We're basically being fined because we were 8 months late asking for an amendment to extend the time, even though they knew all along that we were working on getting our funding for the wastewater treatment program, but the staff wasn't talking to the legal, enforcement division, so we got caught between the two.
So, for me, the recommended motion they have in here is to pay it. Personally, I'd rather if we're gonna pay $2,000, I just soon put it into a program that does something for somebody. Anyway, we're looking for a motion from somebody on one of the 4 options. The recommendation was, motion was number 1, but you have 4 options. So if you wanna go with one, you can do that, but we need a motion to move ahead with it.
Can I ask a question before we do that, or do I have to wait till?
So you can ask questions, sure.
I know you said that you're going back and forth, but don't we have somewhere where something pops up on your calendar saying that we have a deadline here that we need to?
We do now. We didn't then, because my assumption was, and it was a faulty assumption, was that this portion of DEQ was telling them, we're working, I can't meet the deadline because the deadline was, we're gonna have this wastewater treatment plant fixed by that deadline. And that's what I was working on, was trying to get all of the funding and everything together to get the deadline. When they finally told me you're late, when our staff person at Pendleton said you're late, that's when I filed.
Can I ask a question? Am I allowed to? Or not?
Sure, you can ask questions.
I would be curious on the $2,000 for, they say, a program, but what does that program entail?
That's what we have to go find.
That's what I would be curious.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, would it be something that benefits Cascade Locks? Would it, I'm just curious.
Well,
It can.
There are, wood stove change-out programs in Bend, Burns, Klamath County, Lakeview, Oak Ridge, Pendleton, Prineville, Burns, and Heights. We could send them and they could use that to change out wood stoves. That's in Eastern Oregon, Southwestern Oregon, Jackson County, Josephine County, Northwestern Oregon, Vernonia, that covers Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook counties.
I think we're looking for something that benefits us. There's a list of other things.
Yeah, wood smoke reduction efforts, fund a clean dry wood exchange program. They did that in Lakeview. There's all kinds of things. We'd have to develop a program, but it'd have to be approved by DEQ. Clean diesel retrofits. There's pages and pages of things.
It talks about the hazardous waste, which is what we do here already.
Hazardous waste. Fund an agricultural pesticide waste collection event for Wasco and Shrove counties through the Tri-County Agricultural Pesticide Collections of David Week. So we could give $2,000 to the Tri-County Hazardous Waste Program and say, go fund something within our area. That's.
I loan her these papers for a second, explain it, if she can see it.
Oh, yeah. So there is something that we could, that actually benefits what we're a member of. Now, I don't know if they'd allow us to do that.
If it's a simple program like that, that's not a bad idea. What I worry about is if we had $20,000 to put to a program, then it would be a lot easier to justify the extra staff work and organizational time to put towards it than 2,000. So while the program's a really good idea, we want to make sure that it's not something that's going to cost us money to administer.
Well, anyway.
Where they just wanna allocate, instead of just paying the fund for 2,000, that we have the choice to allocate the funds to one of these programs.
We have to approach,
So it
we
wouldn't
have to
necessarily take-
approach the program and see, would you be willing to accept this to do this mitigation? That has to be approved by, and then that has to be approved by DEQ.
It wouldn't be too, but I agree with you, for staff, but I agree with you, if it was a large amount, but if it's a matter of just maybe a few letters or.
It depends on identifying
Right.
a program that's going to
Right.
be that easy.
Right.
So anyway, you got one of four there, you got a recommendation on number one, just pay it, or however you wanna do it there, Ken. So we're looking for a motion. One way or the other, or fight it, yeah. Yeah. Richard?
I'll make a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement and finalize pay. The money goes toward the program for the number 3. Submit an application to conduct a supplemental environmental project. The city could commit to $2,000 to an independent and approved environmental or improvement project instead of paying DEQ.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
And the encouragement is to go to the Tri-County Hazardous Waste, approach them as.
Well, not to pay it to the Oregon DEQ because we'll be starting we'll be using the money for a program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking at number 3. So you're looking at number 3, is your motion. And, was there a second on that? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to go with number 3, which was to submit an application to conduct a supplemental environmental project. In other words, the city would take fund of $2,000 to an independent approved environmental improvement project instead of paying DEQ. Discussion.
We have something in place saying that this isn't gonna happen again, like protocol next time.
Well, the real solution is we get our wastewater treatment plant, and then this MOA goes away, because we will be in compliance with the standards. That's the ultimate solution. And we get notices from the NPDES permit all the time, your permit's running out, you need to supply this information. This is a side agreement with DEQ that says we can operate at less than optimal.
So is number 3 a pretty easy thing for you guys to do financially,
We'll figure it out.
staff time? Bruce, is there anything you want to say on this?
I hate to give the state any money, but looks like it's out of our hands.
Or are you gonna give it to somebody?
I think, the quicker we pay it, the better off we are, and just move on.
So what the motion is to give the money to an environmental project,
And approved program.
an approved environmental program. Are you okay with that? Or do you have any comment on that?
I didn't quite catch all that.
Bruce, the options are to pay the state $2,000 or to find an approved supplemental environmental program and pay them $2,000 so they can further their program. And
Yes, but how much effort are we gonna put into finding one of these programs and then getting it approved by the state? And then getting it paid, I mean,
it's staff time. I mean, what else have I got to do besides?
yeah, okay, I'm okay with it then, as long as it doesn't turn into just a big hole.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So that passes.
Thank you.
I wanna just,
Yeah.
I think that you're just putting this off. I mean, believe it should just be paid, and, because I believe we screwed up, so pay it and get it over with, and you don't have it hanging over you continually, so that's why I went against it.
I'll be back to you with if it's too difficult or it's gonna cost us, attorney time or something, then I'll come back to you and revisit it, but, I will try. There's two programs on here, one that's local and one that's downstate. May be able to use the money and use it relatively quickly and get DEQ approval, but let me try that process. And if it becomes onerous, we'll come back.
This energy audit thing could actually be a fairly straightforward one as well.
But I'll bring it
Okay,
back.
all right.
Thank you.
So, notice to proceed well number 3, water facilities improvement project.
As is, seems to be eternal truth, contractors always cost more than you anticipate. Engineering estimate was 310. There is monies available in the contingency, $226,000. The USDA has some qualifications on that money. They want to keep a portion of that back for contingency. Even if they do keep it back in contingency, if we get to the end of the project, the money is committed to Cascade Locks. It will be released and can reduce the amount, but they're not promising anything like that at the moment. They want to see how the project proceeds. So we need with the $40,000 contingency, we need $191,000 to commit. I've given you several options. I want to go through the options for you. The first column is just where the fund is, SDC, the water fund reserve, or the contingency amounts in the water department. That's what's available, and you can see what the percentage is of that total amount available. If you take it 3 equal portions out of that, 1/3 out of SDCs, 1/3 out of reserve, 1/3 out of contingency, that's $63,687 a piece. If we do it proportional, but that's by percentage, you can see that's what that breakdown is. And then I ranked, you can take everything out of SDCs and the balance out of reserve. Or you can take it all out of the reserved column, all $191,000, since we have $240,000 reserved for capital improvements in our capital reserve. Or you can split it between SDCs and contingencies, or reserve and contingencies. So, or you can say, no, we don't need the third well, we're not gonna do it, and we can tell USDA, take the rest of the money and we'll unallocate it, and then it can go back to some other project, and we don't get a well. So those are your options.
So my question, sell me on why we need a third well.
Okay.
The third well is, right now we have 2 wells, one that pumps about 1,000 gallons a minute, the other one pumps about 500. Our total water right is 2,500 gallons per minute. We cannot pump our total water right. And if we were pumping all 1,500 gallons a minute, that's exercising both pumps and not giving them a break. We don't use all the water. What we want is an option to have a third well so that we can rotate which well provides what, when, so that we extend the life of all 3 wells, all 3 pumps in the wells and mechanicals for the wells in order to make it last longer. So that we don't rely exclusively on well number 1 with well number 2 as a backup. There are times when we are pumping more than we need more than 500 gallons a minute, and if well number 1 is not operating, and well number 2 doesn't have the capacity to supply the water, then we are drawing off the reservoirs and not filling them back up. So it's just redundancy, it's safety, it's resiliency, having the ability to, and all the wells are right together in one location so they can go through the chlorine contact chamber and the corrosion control, mechanism all at once. We control it all from that new building that we built out there. It was in the master water plan.
So I was doing a big event, a big fire event, that
Right.
thing. The two wells would probably lose ground on the reservoirs, trying to fill.
That's
trying to fill
probably
the-
correct, if it's a big, if you got 2 or 3 hydrants pumping full time, yeah, you'll draw in your reservoirs first, and eventually you'll be drawing just off with the wells, and you won't be able to fill capacity. I don't know that for a fact, the engineer would have to tell me that, but that is a possibility.
Well, you're saying, what is our fire truck, that thing can pump at what? It's
I
a
don't
couple
know
of
that.
thousand gallons, it's more than 500 gallons a minute,
Yes,
and it's more than 1,000 gallons a minute.
I believe it is, I don't know,
We've heard that number before.
yeah.
It's like 3.
Yeah, and you're looking at what is the combination of the two being able to pump?
About 1,500 gallons a minute. But we have 2, 500,000 gallon reservoirs,
Right,
so that we,
okay. So anyway, that's where you're at, we've got the 2 wells. Another question on that, how are we doing in water loss? I mean, our pumps not running as much now, I
that's
would
correct,
assume.
that's correct. We believe, I don't have it definitively, but I think we were losing 50% of the water we pumped up to our reservoirs with the abandonment of Dry Creek and the addition of Crystal Springs. We're probably only losing 20% at the most. So we've improved dramatically. But with all of our water piping, we've improved dramatically, but I don't have the exact figures.
Gordon, I have a question for you, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Gordon, if you don't mind. Would you recommend spending SDC funds first, because we're restricted how we can spend? So if
Exactly.
this project, applies for SDC.
Yes.
We ought to be using those initially.
Right, that system development charges are required for capital improvements. This is a capital improvement. You can't spend it for anything else. You can't spend it for operations. You can't spend it for personnel. You can't spend it because you want to have a party. It has to go into capital projects for the water system, which this well is.
Sure, but you only have so much money in SDCs. And
Right.
this may not be the only capital project, so the next capital project may not have enough money in it if
Well,
you
the
need
water
a lot of
project,
SDCs.
the water project didn't have enough money in SDCs. The idea that SDCs will fund your complete next project, whatever your next project is all totally dependent on growth, and our SDC charges aren't enough to cover everything. But we have collected it. We've never spent SDC funds in the water project before. We've collected this, most of this has been since the growth, with the housing growth, the 20% housing growth that we've seen since 2015. So.
Okay, well, is there a motion out there?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Your Honor. You want to, Bob?
No, you go ahead.
I move to approve the engineer's recommendations for well number 3 and authorize the city administrator to sign the documents relating to this project. The funding resources for this project are from SDC, Water Capital Funds, and/or the Water Fund Contingency Plan.
Can you fill in some numbers for me?
What's that?
Which numbers?
Well, we can,
Is that the one where it's split?
well, personally, I'm thinking of a split, but I don't know, that's something we can talk about if somebody seconds this.
Well, no, that's the motion you have to make is where do you want the money to come from?
Well, we can't amend the motion.
You've made a motion with.
Okay, well then I'll make it for the split.
The 95, 95,
Yes, the 95.
Oh, I got it.
between contingency and SDCs.
Yes,
Okay.
we can start there.
second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Approve the engineer's recommendation on well 3. And where they're getting the money is on the split of SDCs at $95,531 and contingency at $95,530. Discussion. Richard?
Your Honor, yeah, I would just like to bring up a couple points. I do know that going into the future from where we're at now, that there's going to be more pressure on us for that third well. Eventually, we'll have to do a third well, and when we do, is the city going to be able to be in a financial situation to do it? Not only mostly because cost is going to be nothing like what we're paying now for it, because every year the cost for all this stuff keeps going up, and then every year as this ties into economic development, every year the safety issue gets bigger issue. Not to mention, if we have another wildfire, it'd be comforting to know that we have enough water to tap into on the hydrants without worrying about the reservoir going down in 20 minutes. This is going to have to happen eventually anyway, people, so it's either now or put it off. That's the way I see it.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, I agree with Richard. It's, this council has tried to get ahead of things as far as our water, sewer, and power. For many years, we kicked issues down the road. That's how we got in trouble, in my opinion. So we've been playing catch up. And we're not there yet, but we're a lot closer than we were. And I agree that after the fire, any kind of improvement that we can make to the water system is well worth the effort, because it is just gonna get more expensive.
Or building bigger buildings. That's what it does have.
We'll have more money to
Requires
have more
water. Bruce, you got any comments?
Just like to say I agree with Bobby and Richard, and it's no time to say well now. When we're this close, and who wants to get back 330,000? I say let's go for it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're drilling another well.
Thank you.
Fortunately, we have a lot of water coming down Henry Creek. Okay. Approve Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund Agreement.
And our wastewater project, the USDA is
at times, we hang on to surplus equipment, and it talks about going surplus. Personally, I'd like to see in the motion that it says we're putting this thing in a surplus to make sure we get rid of it.
Well, we have an option that I didn't explain to you, that I just discovered Thursday. We could go ahead and repair the $5,000 transmission, have the truck available for when the snows fly, and then when the new truck is delivered, they get the old truck as trade-in. Or we can just give them the old truck as trade-in and not worry about, let them do the transmission and let them fix the vehicle and sell it. So, one way or the other, the Northwest Sales North Side Sales wants the old truck. So, I wrote this a week ago when I thought we would have to surplus it.
You said they want the old truck?
Yeah, they want the old truck, they're gonna put either we put the 5,000 in now and they get the truck, or they put the 5,000. We don't want.
Yeah, but if they're up for surplus, somebody's gonna pay some money for it.
We can go back and talk to them, but
Just, it's been my experience in fleet, needs and snowplows, that it doesn't make a lot of sense to repair something and then put it into surplus.
Well, I wouldn't repair it, sir, I just.
Well, but that's what you're talking about, right?
well, no, it's the option is to repair it and have it while we wait for the new truck, cause who knows what this snow event's gonna do tonight or tomorrow.
So right now we have nothing.
We have nothing.
We don't have a lease or rental.
Well, we'd have to go find Snyder, borrow his trucks or lease his trucks from him or something.
Okay.
But
Well, anyway,
the motion here is that maybe we can just
is to get the truck.
to get the truck.
Okay, so I'm open for a motion, however you wanna do it.
I make a motion that we purchase a new plow truck, a Ford F-550, for not more than, what is it? 575.48, and that we put the existing truck into surplus.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Purchase the 2019 F-550. With not bad. And Northside Truck Sales for $67,575.48. Be funded equally by capital reserve funds, budget for that purpose, and put the old truck in the surplus. Did we get a second? We got a second on that, right? Okay, so, discussion.
I think as part of this, we should have a plan in place to get us through the time that we're without a truck. I don't wanna be there.
Do we have an estimated time?
It's within a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, the truck is sitting there and we just have to put the bed on it and mount the snow plow.
All right.
Bruce, is there anything you wanna say?
It looks like, the truck could be adequate for our needs. I mean, the other one's 15 years old. I even hate to guess how many miles it has on it. I would agree with, Bobby. I think it's a good purchase.
Well, we bought it used anyway.
We did.
That is right, isn't it?
Well, it served its purpose.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Opposed? All right, go get a truck.
While we're talking about plowing, can the city possibly put out information to the residents to educate them on what to do with their cars that are parked on the street when we're trying to plow?
It's
Like how to make it easier, but
it's in the newsletter.
I know, but can we pump it out a little bit more maybe?
We'll put it on Facebook, we'll put it on ours, but it's in the newsletter because it's going out next week.
All right. I just know that's been a
I put it,
serious problem.
well, where you live, where it's narrow.
but I've only lived there a week.
I don't
It's
know.
been everywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so appearance of interested citizens, we got Nancy right in there. Come on up and do your thing. Pass these down, okay. City Administrator Zimmerman.
Most of the information that is classified on the computer, so if somebody broke in, they wouldn't be able to get it anyway.
There is some information available in paper files, but that's all I'm gonna say about it.
Does it look like they were tampered with?
Does not.
Is there a lock on it?
Yes, it's broken now. And and we've moved it to a new cabinet with lock.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
security system sounds good.
Well, we have one downstairs because we were a little concerned about our inventory, but we didn't have one up here. It is very similar to the break-in that was 8 or 10 years ago, exact same process. Our city population numbers, estimate from Portland State, according to them, we did not grow this last year, even though we had about 30 new houses. They kept our population the same at 1375. Number 3, the small city allotment grant. The city's been notified that we will again be a recipient of a small city allotment grant of $100,000. The application was to bring the Herman Creek Lane Railroad crossing into compliance with Federal Railway Administration standards. The project will be included in the next fiscal budget beginning July 1, 2020. When completed, we will then apply to ODOT Rail to approve the crossing as a public crossing. Right now, it's a private crossing. And when after we get it brought up to standard, or as close to standard as we can, then it'll be classified by the state classifies the crossing, whether it's public public or private. When the state classifies it as a public crossing, then we can use that as one of the crossings, as the two crossings we have to have for a quiet zone. And we still have to do a little bit of work on Crample Way to get that crossing to up to standard for a quiet zone. But we're a whole lot closer to getting this done than we were last week. This year's SCA grant that we got will be paving 2,000 feet of Forest Lane from Wanapa to Hammond Street. We're gonna do it in conjunction with the ODOT paving of Wanapa in May. So that's a good thing. The next is a note from GorgeNet. Dan Baum, who is the president of GorgeNet, has indicated that he has sold his personal shares to a company called Blue Mountain Networks, which gives them more resources. He's still gonna be president of Gorge Networks. They're gonna keep it separate. And I had Ruben review the franchise agreement. That will not need to change, but Gorge Networks is growing and they got bought. That's good for them. On EMS activity, you heard Nancy's report, but in October we had 26 calls. We responded to 22 of them. Hood River Fire covered 1, AMR covered 2, and Skamania covered 1. So far in November, we've had 13 calls with AMR covering 1 and Skamania EMS covering 2. And then there's the information there. We moved the medic unit up to Viento to cover the county as Hood River and Parkdale medics were out on calls. We also had the station open for the warming shelter and a movie night, which movie Sunday afternoon was a success. This month's report or October's report for the Public Works activities, they're still continuing on the Moody Street project. Though the 3 container homes were due to be in by the middle of November, they have not told us when they're coming yet, so we're just on standby to finish that project. The corrosion control project is essentially complete. We're now awaiting approval from Oregon Health Authority to begin putting the soda ash into the water, but the project itself is essentially complete. Doing the regular meter reading, vegetation control, residential meter installation, and working with ODOT. We really want to do anything to Wanapa that needs to be done on water or sewer before we pave. That's our goal. Our wastewater projects, again, is Moody Street. We did have some significant sewer plant repairs that approved in October, and we're working again with the engineers for the sewer mains, identifying the sewer mains and what work has to be done so we can get that work done. We pay. The electrical projects, again, the Moody Street, these container homes come in, they're already inspected by we don't have to have the county building inspector come in and inspect the home or the electrical. It's done at the place of manufacture. So when they come in, they place them, they call us up, we have to run out and put the power on. There's no time lag that's required or desired. They've been putting the Forest Service asked for the Eagle Creek Overland Campground to have some power. They put the stream transformer in. Now we're working on getting a bid to put the lights up on Columbia Gorge Way. The Union Pacific Railroad has a line downriver bridleville that they run electricity to the switches to warm them up so that they will function in freezing weather. And we've been working with them on that. We've told them that the engineering design that they've used will not work. They said, we'll just put a bigger transformer in. We put a bigger transformer in. It still doesn't work. And we told them that, but they're paying for it, so. Public Works, the Gorge Hubs project has been inspected. If you take a look at that, the bathroom should start to get built pretty soon. The asphalt is down, and the paving job was not satisfactory. And so we brought the contractor out. He brought the subcontractor people out. They've agreed to let the asphalt go through the winter, where it goes through a freezing and thawing cycle, and then they will grind it up the next spring and put 2 inches of new pavement down at their expense. So it'll be a good product when it's finally finished. And if you've seen the back truck, we've been sucking up the storm drains and, the drains like that around town this last week so we can get them clean. We're still looking for a contractor to come out and fix the doors on the roof framing, on the doors of the Herman Creek Lane. Next council meeting will December the 9th. Normally, the second meeting in December 23rd. Do you want to come on the 23rd, or do you want to take that day off?
Is there a need to?
I'm sure I can find something to talk about. Past history has been that we've been canceled.
Yeah, let's just do that.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Thank you. Holiday office schedule, where our personnel policies say we take 4 hours off on Christmas Eve and 4 hours off on New Year's Eve. Staff is wondering if we could take the 4 hours on New Year's Eve, move it to Christmas Eve, so we take all of Christmas Eve off. That'd be all of Tuesday, Christmas Eve, and Wednesday, Christmas, but work all day on Wednesday, New Year's Eve, Tuesday, New Year's Eve, but not Wednesday, the New Year's Day. Just moving the hours. Last year, you were very kind to us and let us take both days off. But what would you like?
I'm good with it.
With,
You're good with both days off, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's the same amount of hours, yeah, go ahead and, take Christmas Eve off and work on New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve, excuse me.
okay.
So, are we good with that?
Yeah, most people are off anyway, so.
It'll probably be very slow.
Yep, looks like you're good.
Okay. Thank you. And then again, broadcasting on YouTube except for tonight. And like us on Facebook. Thank you.
Well, I got a question on that course. I understand their stuff was broke into and some of the material was taken here.
No, that's not correct.
That's not correct, okay.
Yeah,
That's a rumor then.
I heard that rumor today. I called the engineer who called the contractor. The contractor got right back to us. It was the foreman on the project that was looking at the ballots to see what's there, to make sure they had it there. Nothing has been taken.
Okay, so where are we on lining and setting to get in and out of there?
It's all part of the project.
You're not sure where we are on it?
The contractor is taking his time.
Yes, yes, he is.
He is. And I've,
Prodded him?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I told him you wouldn't have a problem with people thinking stuff was stolen if you had the building built.
Yeah, well,
I
that's
thought,
what I was thinking when I heard the rumor, that it was like, hey, you guys let it sit there for that long, and without building anything.
no, they haven't, everything is there
Okay.
that they were.
And they'll get the lines and the signs when they get the lines and the signs.
Yes. Well, we got the flagpole coming, the lights are coming, you know, they've got, it's all pumped or conduited to put in, they just have to arrive.
Well, until we get lines and signs, anybody coming and going there are gonna be a bit confused.
Well,
That's all I
yes,
say.
and it particularly since we're changing the direction, you know, with the old way is not gonna be the new way.
Yeah.
So, I just, be patient,
So you might pass that along to them,
I'll do that.
that the residents people who use the area are becoming very confused with how to get in, out of there, and how to park in there. It is creating,
Yeah, if they had lines, it'd help, that's for sure.
yep,
All right,
all
thank you.
right. Thank you. Okay, where am I? So, mayor and council comments. Mayor and council comments. What do you got to say? Bruce, what do you got to say?
Thinking about it, thank all the citizens that come forward and talk at the meetings. There's things that they notice that I don't, and I always appreciate hearing from them. So thank you, if you can hear me out there. And was, good to see Thunder Island Brewing getting some concrete down. It's moving along there. So I'm happy to see that, and, we just talked about, Gorge Hubs, and every time I come to town, I see a change there. It's, and I'm one of those ones that comes in both sides. I never know which way I'm coming in there now, but I'll learn. And I was just looking at the sheriff's report in conjunction with hearing about the break-in at City Hall, and seems like we're having way more thefts and burglaries than we're used to. So I don't know if there's some way we could mention that in the newsletter in case there's some citizens that aren't aware of that activity. And let's see, I thought I had one more thing, but you know what? I think that's enough. Thank you.
Were you gonna make a comment there, Gordon?
We talked about crime prevention in the newsletter. I didn't want to put the break-in in. I mean, again, like Jules said, everybody knows. They didn't get it.
Other than Jules.
Well, Jules,
I was told about 24 hours later, and then people started hounding me at work about it. What happened, what was taken, anyway.
okay.
I'm sure you can assume what.
Okay, Jules, you're up.
Okay. I appreciate citizens coming in, even, just sitting here listening, being a part of it. During the power outage, I took after I went to the warming shelter to see what was going on there and watching a little bit of a movie and playing with John's kids, and it was fun. I didn't see anybody but firefighters there and family members of them. But after I left there, I drove through town. I know a couple other people were driving through town, and there was security all over town, flashing lights. They were in parking lots, they were on the street, they were, I believe, down Forest Lane. And the power came back on about 4 hours earlier than everybody thought, which was good, and I didn't hear of any problems. So I think communication was good, and glad everything went well. That's it.
Some of the things that Jules talked about was, during the outage, I don't know who provided the security. I'm gonna assume it was BPA.
Gordon got a hold of them.
We invited the county sheriff to come down. We invited the state police to come down. We invited Chris Vick to come, volunteered to come. And I asked the BPA security to come. They could not come, but we talked to the contractor to run their lights, the yellow lights and flashing lights up and down the street, just to put a presence in. And the contractor was willing to do that, so.
Those are the ones that I saw. I mean, just after there was so much, conversation when, the boundary got broken into and the gentleman was attacked, and so I think the good that came out of that is that everybody realized that we're in this together, and so it was very good to see people driving around town, just to have some folks out there, and then the security people, and so hopefully, we can get something going and get things more back to normal. There have been a lot of break-ins and other criminal activity that we've got to get a handle on. I wanted to thank Nancy Renault. Nancy's been working with the fire department for longer than she stated. I mean, she said it was like 20-some years. Nancy's been down there. Her and Joe were active 40 years ago when Joe and I were one of like 6 people on the department. So she just keeps plugging along, and I can't say enough about the work that she does. She doesn't have to do all this stuff. She really loves the whole fire service and has always been like the #1 supporter in town, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate the members fire department. It's encouraging, and I know that our new chief, deserves some of that credit. He's a very active person. He's out in the community, he's really working hard, and I think that shows. That's about it.
Richard?
Yeah, I'd like to, wish everybody a great Thanksgiving and hope everybody has a good time with their family and friends. Also, cold weather is bearing down upon us, and I hope that people realize that it's that time of year and they can be prepared. Driving on the freeway is going to get a lot tougher as time goes on. So it behooves people that drive to make sure that they do maintenance on the vehicle. Maybe check their windshield wiper fluid. Check your tire pressure, especially because we're right at that point where if you had 35 pounds of pressure in your tire 2 weeks ago, you do not now because of change in the barometric pressure. It changes your tire pressure going into winter, so that's something to check on. I also would like to continue to thank and encourage the staff for all that they do, and I like the idea of seeing what we can do to enhance protection of people's personal information in the city. I think that's something that should be really high on the list of safety concerns for our citizens. Also, again, I'd like to thank everybody that comes out and shares their opinions and ideas with us. It's, like Bobby's saying, it's extremely helpful and appreciative. Things seem to, be getting a little crazy out there with, hooliganism or whatever you want to call it. People breaking in. Some of it is just hooliganism. It's not even trying to steal anything. They just break stuff up. So I know that I've heard people talk about having neighborhood watch groups, and if people decide to come together and do that, I would highly recommend that they get with the Hood River County Sheriff, because they will coach them and teach them how to do it safely. There's a right way and a wrong way. People have been killed because they don't know how to confront people. So please be careful of that. If you're out there and you see somebody doing something. I mean, stands to reason, if you have a cell phone, you take a picture, but if you take a picture at night, you have a flash, and they're going to see you. So there's lots of things to be mindful of. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a good holiday, and that's all I have for now.
Linda?
I want to thank the fire chief for this Sunday, the movie matinee. There were only 2 families there. I was one of them, and I had 4 in my family, and another family had 2. So we need to get the word out on that, because I think it's something that, kids come and watch a movie, they get popcorn and juice, and so we really need to push that and get the word out more on that. I also want to always thank the staff for all the good work that they do, and I think that's probably what I've got.
So, yeah, all of the above, everybody has touched base on a lot of things that I think the whole council supports on. The citizens come in and talk to us, we appreciate that, and hopefully we follow through on. A question I would have right off from one of the questions is, there was a mention of 1,500 feet non-alcohol. Is there a rule on alcohol being,
The city attorney is going to research that for me.
okay, so you already asked him to, because I know that this thing's been
We have,
talked about for a long time, it's a wonder we'd be talking about it if it's not something we can, that they can legally do. I
well,
don't know.
it's, I don't know that there is an exclusionary zone. I've never heard that for
Okay.
alcohol. So that's what we're gonna have to, OCC would enforce it anyway, not,
The only places I've heard that have those were created locally
yeah.
and not by the state.
That's my guess too, but we have an exclusionary zone for, marijuana
Yes.
sales, but not for alcohol.
Well, we haven't got really any of the information about that project. The only thing I recall seeing is a
It's
very rough draft.
It's an outright permitted use that's been gone through the planning commission and site's been approved. They've got a building permit, so.
But is it approved for a hotel, a park? It
No,
seems to me you'd have a hard time getting all that kind of stuff in.
It's phased, and the first building is a restaurant with the potential expansion of microbrew. They're gonna brew the beer in Portland and bring it out here and sell it. But it's just a restaurant, the first phase. And there's two more buildings, conceptually of 5,000 square foot retail spaces that go down the rest of the property towards the old hardware store. And this boutique hotel kind of thing is, what they're looking for is a wedding venue that on the back of the hill so that there's not a concert venue. There's not there's only 2 acres there. They can't do a lot. And the parking will be up off the street
Right.
behind it,
which has all been approved by the planning commission.
So the 1,000 feet with marijuana, that's right in there by statute. The legislature put that in.
Right.
Well, we
Legalized, made all their
voted on that.
tweaks.
Yeah, we did.
I'm not aware of anything alcohol wise
Yeah,
that
that's
would
what I-
apply there. And really, I mean, the OLCC is the one that does the watchdog. They're signing off on it.
Yeah, there was a lot of
And depending
misconceptions
if
in
you
that
go,
letter.
if you're at the corner of the tennis courts, which is school property, you go 500 feet, you got the Columbia Village Inn already, you've got Ravenwood, it's already violated the 500 feet.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the port would love to attract a doctor. In fact, they're in discussions right now with potential clinic. But, you know, banks and accountants and everything else, that comes as our population grows. It's not something you recruit.
Enterprise.
We had a bank here and we lost it because we couldn't sustain it.
Yeah.
And 2 banks,
We had Oregon Bank and then,
and then Pacific Federal,
Northwest.
I think they came in after Oregon. I think one was here, then another one came. Neither one of them,
either right down here.
neither one of them
Yeah,
made it.
and whether the building can, or the business can survive that's the nature of any business.
But just those are good questions though. But the fact is, the city always has, city and board always has tried to attract those kind of things. You know, just as, they put a lot of effort into the clinic that we have when we were at the school. That was driven primarily by the city and working together to get it in. So, yes, good question, but, and I guess it's good to remind us to continue to look at those sort of things. I was gonna say too, we were talking about neighborhood watch, that Hood County, if folks wanna look into that, like Rick said, we should be looking into that. There's a citizen patrol that Multnomah County does, and so if anybody's interested in that, and they want us to push towards that, there's people from Multnomah County that would come out and help us, but that requires, anytime you do things like this, anytime you're out looking around and being part of something, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with it, and there's a lot of following the laws, and laws that you gotta go with when you're doing this. To be on the citizen patrol, I don't know what they do with neighborhood watch, but I believe it's about 40 hours of educational time, and then you get a certification that you're part of that, but you gotta put in 40 hours of education to be part of that program. Multnomah County has it, and I'm sure they would come out and help us with it if anybody's interested in doing that, but
What's
there's
it
a lot of
called again?
responsibility to it. Citizen patrol, and they do it with Corbett. Corbett has a pretty good program going apparently.
Well, you said taking pictures or whatever, but the flash.
Well, that was
So
just
I
an
didn't
example.
realize they had, security in town. So about an hour before, before the power went out, I was driving around. I'm like, what's this truck doing just sitting around? So I videotaped it, but it turned out to be the security.
Well, I think everybody was going around. The truck was seen. My sister went out and was driving
There were
around.
no
too.
lights
And I
flashing,
think
but
the
there were,
truck was looking at them like, what are you?
Yeah.
So they went by the truck and said, okay, I'm just somebody out here.
I went and introduced myself
Yeah.
to one of the guys.
So I think everybody was looking at each other like, hey, what are you doing here?
Yep.
But the fact was, lots of folks were out keeping an eye, including our fire department. They had the warming shelter, but they went out and traveled around the town. So again, appreciate what that group is doing. They're involved in a lot of ways in the community. They've been over to the school on a number of emergency drills that the school puts on for a variety of things. They've gone over to participate in all of those. So they're very active in a lot of ways. Yeah, certainly appreciate all that. I noticed Pat or Bob, I assume you were looking at this thing on the plaque. Is that what you were?
Yeah, I read through it, yeah.
Is there anything you want to, you didn't mention anything about
No.
that, or do you want to
Not out
mention
loud,
it?
sir.
No.
Huh?
No,
You didn't want to do anything, we're not talking about it right now.
read the whole,
Please read it.
just read the whole
Thank you.
thing.
On my own,
Uh,
or read it now,
During the break.
during the break, okay. The thing here? Okay.
Thank you.
Don't comment on it, read it first. Okay.
Read it.
That's it?
We do have an executive session.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go into executive section, folks. The ORS